I noticed something out in my yard, and I thought I just have to talk about it. Every time I'm out there mowing, trimming, pulling weeds, dragging branches around, within minutes, I get company. Robins, sparrows, cardinals, they all show up like they're waiting for me to start something. That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, this is Jill from the North Woods, talking about how to enjoy nature right outside your front door. Well, this is literally outside my front door. When I start to do yard work, in the most popular creatures in my own backyard come out in droves and look like they're waiting for me to get finished so that they can move in and do something. And there's a really fun explanation about it. So let's talk about what's happening. When you mow, dig, rake, pull weeds, you disturb the ground, the grass layer around there. And underneath all of that is a hidden world of earthworms, beetles, grubs, spiders, all kinds of things. Ants, too. I have a lot of ants back there. And they were just sort of tucked away out of sight. The second you disturb that layer, it becomes exposed and easier to grab. And for a bird, that is a buffet. It's lunch showing up on schedule. And so let's break down and show a little bit what's happening in this particular case. Robins are probably the most obvious example. They're famous for trailing right behind anyone, digging, turning up soil. I have brand new trees in my backyard. I water the trees. The robins are there too. They are following me around all over my backyard. I've been working on this project lately where I am taking away all the weedy trees that I don't want in my yard so that I can have trees that I do want in my backyard. Also, I am starting the most epic stick pile in the history of mankind. And so I'm cutting down a lot of branches and trimming them up. And so this is going to be amazing. But you know what? The robins are there, visual ground hunters, and they're watching very closely and following in right behind me, looking for any kind of opportunity. Then let's talk about the sparrows. The sparrows have advantages in different ways. When you rake or pull weeds, chop up branches, you're not just exposing insects, you're exposing seeds as well, buried, hidden. And so the song sparrows, the chipping sparrows, I have house sparrows. Did I tell you this? House sparrows living in my gutter right outside my bathroom. And I get about 3 batches of babies every summer. And guess what? The babies now are being super invasive. They go and cling to the outside of my bathroom window screen and look in to see what's going on in my bathroom. It's not good, sparrows. But anyway, my house sparrows and all the other sparrows, I have chipping sparrows back there too, are quick to move in and investigate any freshly disturbed ground looking for additional seeds. But where it gets more complicated is the cardinal. During much of the breeding season, they're eating plenty of insects. They're easy to grab and lots of insects out there. I can assure you, I have mosquito bites. The other day I was recording and I was sitting there like talking about my other podcast and I'm scratching my neck. And when I was editing, I'm like, what's wrong with me? I got bit up by mosquitoes everywhere. So plenty of bugs out there in the backyard. But cardinals are also very curious birds. And so if there's a decent chance that something interesting is happening in your backyard, cardinals show up. They might be checking out your activity. They're checking out to see what you're doing. They're looking for any uncovered seeds, berries also. So they're just kind of a curious bunch. So here's the phrase that I came up with when I was researching this whole piece of it, is you're kind of engineering the ecosystem, or you're an ecosystem engineer. Beavers build dams, reshape the wetlands. Woodpeckers excavate cavities so that other species can use those holes for years. But when you're out there in your yard, dragging branches, cutting weeds, flipping over logs, you're doing a temporary, smaller version of the exact same thing. You're creating a buffet, whether you meant to or not. And the thing that got me really interested about this is birds are far better at recognizing patterns, routines, than most people give them credit for. Robins, chickadees, crows, jays, sparrows, all of them, these species can learn to associate specific human behavior with food showing up. So there's a real possibility that the birds in your backyard have learned something, that when the human starts moving the sticks around, food appears. Not a Jill-specific thing, but basically the shape of people doing a familiar activity, a set of movements, a routine. And usually that routine means that when that human is done, something good is about to happen. And so here's the part that sort of draws it all behavior together. This didn't start with lawnmowers. Long before the suburban yard ever existed, these species have lived alongside mammals, and mammals disturb the ground. Bison and elk, deer, rooting pigs, these animals move through, they expose insects, seeds in their wake as they walk through an area. And so birds have learned to follow that disturbance as an easy meal. The person who goes out in a yard with a rake or a mower or a trimmer, they're creating a small, short-lived version of exactly that same opportunity. So this behavior is ancient. The lawnmower is brand new, but the expectation is just built in. So if you spend a lot of time outside working in your yard, it's a nice thought to think with that the robins around your place might genuinely recognize you, not so much the person with a name, but as a familiar creature who actively, reliably produces lunch. And that's a pretty good reputation to have. Particularly if you're a robin or you're a friend of robins, you have a good reminder that even something as ordinary as mowing the lawn connects your behavior to a set of patterns that stretch back all the way to when we had bison herds walking the ancient grasslands around here. The next time a bird shows up, the second you start doing your yard work, you'll know why. Go look up. It's pretty amazing. So I wanted to share this with you. Like I said, it's an observation. I've been doing a lot of yard work lately, and the birds have just been following me around everywhere I go, ringing the dinner bell, telling them it's time to come out. And I kind of dig that. It's been really good. This stick pile I'm building is going to be epic, and the birds are going to absolutely love it. So I can't wait to get working on that. Maybe someday I'll show you a picture of it when I get done. But I wanted to show it, I guess, also because a lot of times we talk about how many times, mankind uh, essentially, ruin something, like there's a habitat and we destroy it or we disturb it this way or that way. But the idea is that sometimes we do things that actually promote it. You also see kestrels making nests and signs on buildings. And so nature learns to adapt around us and use the things that we do in order to make their lives better. But this all goes beyond just the birds. Toads and frogs will often hop out from the cover of gardens once you start working, looking for the same sort of exposed insects, and robins after that. Garter snakes, too, same reason. Disturbed ground means easier hunting, and the snake isn't going to pass up on that. Oftentimes, I have these rabbits and chipmunks aren't usually after what you exposed in a freshly cleaned up yard, but the shorter area means a better sight line for the rabbits to spot predators or easy access to tender new growth. So I notice that after I do mow the lawn, all the rabbits come out and they hang out in my backyard as if it's they sit like next to this pile of clover and they just lounge as they're eating and eating all the clover that's out there. Squirrels will dig straight into soil it's easier to dig in the soil when the grass is trimmed and shorter, looking for old buried nuts or insects. It just became a lot easier for them. So the interesting thing is that it's not that all yard work is equal. Mowing down weeds like clover and dandelions can actually cut food supplies for bees and pollinators. So at least in the short term, it might reduce the types of meals that they have. So while the robins are celebrating, the pollinators are probably, oh, drats, I wish that clover was still there. But on the flip side, cutting down overgrown areas opens up sunny patches and some of that ground nesting area where bees and beetles actually prefer. Even within the insect world, it's not a complete loss. In fact, this stick pile is going to be huge for a lot of different species in my backyard. But then you think about what's happening underground, too. Yard work affects plants and soil. It's not just the animals walking or hopping around. Mowing actually stimulates the grass to grow more and grow more densely. Cutting it down removes other types of It basically causes the plant to branch sideways instead of just growing up, so the grass gets thicker. Those clippings you leave behind break down into real nitrogen into the soil, functioning like a light natural fertilizer. And then turning and raking the soil can actually help aerate compact ground, which benefits the earthworm population over time, which is funny when you're thinking about it. You're helping the worms thrive in the long run, which ends up serving them up to robins in the short run. But circle of life. So the real picture of yard work isn't equal and not an equal buffet for everybody, but it definitely benefits some species. Some lose a little bit temporarily until the weeds and the flowers grow back up again, and others will benefit in the longer term as the grass in the yard gets healthier. And so when you're pulling out invasive weeds, you're helping the natural things that are, populated for your area. You help them thrive a little bit better. So yard work isn't just a dinner bell. It's a whole quiet redistribution of resources happening every time you step outside with a rake. I hope you enjoy this session. If you have anything to say to me, you can email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. I would love to hear from you. Put a comment right here. And you can go to jillfromthenorthwoods.com to see everything I do. I just started a Substack where I hope to just talk about the stories behind the podcast. I just wrote an article talking about that eagle and our experience with watching that eagle who had a giant carp in its talons sitting on the edge of a riverbank getting attacked by black-necked stilts. So there's pictures there, and I hope you enjoy it. I also opened up the chat, so if you have any questions or you have any comments you want to talk about, go ahead and chit-chat. Say hi. Anyway, thanks so much. Have a great day.